Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to the November 9th, 2010 meeting of the Glendale City Council. May we have the roll call, please? Here.
Council members Draymond.
Here.
Friedman.
Here.
Quintero.
Here.
Weaver.
Here.
Mayor Najarian.
Here. Councilmember Quintero, would you lead us in the flag salute, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for the invocation delivered by Reverend Rich Garner from First United Methodist Church.
Let us pray. This, O God, is a season of choosing. Some have been chosen to serve, others have been elected to lead. Rekindle in us a willingness to provide servant leadership to all the people of this city. Remind us that we are not required to agree. We are asked to decide in the best interests of all. We are not asked to simply finish the task. We are required to do all things as well as we can. May this opportunity for servant leadership cause us to grow up into courageous humility and sacrificial grace, so that justice and equity, compassion and concern may guide us to lead others this evening and in the days ahead. We ask this, confident that we are in the presence of the holy. Amen.
Amen.
May we have your report?
The agenda for the November 9, 2010 regular meeting of the Glendale City Council is posted on Thursday, November 4, 2010 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
Thank you. The next item.
Next item is presentation and appointments, item number 3, and at 3A is agenda preview for the meetings of November 16, 2010.
Ms. Beers.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, for November 16th, 2010, there are no Glendale Housing Authority business agenda items. In the afternoon at 2:30 for the Glendale Redevelopment Agency, there are no business agenda items either. There is a joint public meeting of the Glendale City Council and the Glendale Housing Authority at 2:30. Director of Community Services and Parks, status of program planning for the fiscal year 2011-2012 CDBG and Home Annual Action Plan. That evening for City Council at 6 p.m., we have a number of consent items. General Manager of Glendale Water and Power. This is to provide analytical laboratory services for drinking water and environmental compliance report. General Manager of Glendale Water and Power. This is regarding ad services for the purposes of implementing the energy optimization software to the new water SCADA system. Glendale General Manager of Glendale Water and Power. This is the Dietrich Reservoir Backup Pipeline Project. General Manager of Glendale Water and Power. Bid proposals received for Rockhaven Exploratory Well. Director of Public Works, this is approval of final map of a 5-unit new condominium subdivision at 352 West Lexington Drive. Under action items, we have a number of items. City Treasurer, this is regarding the City Treasurer's quarterly investment review as of September 30th, 2010. City Treasurer, this is the change to the city's investment policy. Director of Community Services and Parks, this is regarding the lights at Verdugo Park. City Attorney, this is off calendar that day. I apologize. We have 3 items under hearings. Director of Community Planning, Glendale Register of Historic Resources, Listing and Mills Act contract for numerous properties, 3 properties. Property at 2096 Rimcrest Drive, property at 1770 Grandview Avenue, and property at 1446 Royal Boulevard. And lastly, Director of Community Planning, this is a proposed ordinance changing the zoning designation from R1R2 to R12 and/or establishing a special setback for certain properties located along Hollister Terrace and adjacent streets. That concludes my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Next item, please.
At 3B is a proclamation designating November 2010 as Veteran Appreciation Month.
Thank you. Will the Patriotism Committee members please come forward? Citizenship and patriotism. Thank you.
Good evening.
I have a proclamation for you. Myrna Stanley.
Yeah, for the veterans, actually.
For the veterans. Whereas the residents of Glendale appreciate and admire the thousands of men and women who served in the armed forces to protect and preserve their country and the freedoms enjoyed by all Americans. And whereas in war, international conflicts, and peacekeeping missions, men and women have been wounded, taken as prisoners, and died in the line of duty. And whereas veterans possess a wide variety of valuable qualities, including experience, courage, leadership, and loyalty that makes them ideal candidates for employment. And whereas the state of California is committed to ensuring that veterans receive the services and programs to which they are entitled and promoting employer interest in hiring veterans. And whereas during Veterans Appreciation Month, state and local agencies increase employer awareness about the benefits of hiring veterans. Now, therefore, I proclaim November 2010 as Veterans Appreciation Month. And will the veteran and Verdugo WIB member please do the honor of presenting this to Myrna Stanley.
Oh, talking about me. Where is he? Or she?
Oh, that
And,
is gorgeous.
The committee deserves it for all the good work they do, and you certainly deserve it, Myrna, for all of the work you do.
Oh, no, thank you. This is gorgeous, and I accept this on behalf of the Patriotism Committee and for all the veterans and the POWs. Thank you so much for your service.
Thank you. And I have a... Myrna, if you'd come up. I have a surprise for you. We have a speaker on this card, Mr. Al Hoffman.
Oh.
And Margaret Hammond.
Yeah, Mayor Najarian and council members and staff, Myrna organized all this for the banner recognition, the banners that we had, the military banners. And she's going to present a check, I think, tonight later, aren't you? Or you're going to do it now, or you got it now? Okay, this is just from our courting council. It's not the big one. Okay. There was a lot of individual homeowners associations gave on their own, and Chevy Chase was the top dog. They gave $1,000 to the banners, which was really great. But the coordinating council, as a body, we are going to donate $426 from the coordinating council to the banners. So we want to present that at this time. And I guess Margaret and I, since we both signed a check, it should be good, right?
Right, sure, I hope so.
Okay.
Cover it.
Okay, who gets the check? Does the city clerk get it?
What's the protocol, Mr. Starbird?
I can
If you give it to our city clerk, he'll make sure it gets to the right place.
Thank you. Thank you very much, homeowners
And it's,
coordinating council.
we feel that this is a really a wonderful program, and we hope that people will think about it, and when they have that thought, that they will be willing to contribute too for the banners. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next item.
At 3C is a presentation of military banner to Mr. Brian Jew.
And who'll be helping us with this? Myrna Stanley and Brian Jew. Come forward, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. I'd like to introduce you to Brian Jew, a member of the Verdugo Woodlands. I have to tell you, we're so proud of him. His sister, Stacy. His father, Michael, who's an Air Force veteran, I just found out. And Brian, thank God, was returned to us safely from Afghanistan. And I'm sure you have some questions for him, but we think he's wonderful. Here, Brian.
How old are you, Brian? You look very young.
I'm currently 24.
Okay. And how many years did you spend
overseas? I spent about 15 months overseas. I also did a year tour in Korea after that. Spent 6 years in the Army, though, altogether.
Well, as you know, we have a Hometown Heroes military banner program spearheaded by the Citizenship and Patriotism Committee 5 years ago, I believe, 4 or 5 years ago. And Myrna Stanley and others were instrumental in that. And part of the program is the retiring of the military banner upon the safe return of the veterans. So I'm happy to come down and present you with this. Thank you very much for your service. We're very proud of you. And here's the banner. It's too big, I think, to unfold, but it's folded like the flag, like the stars and stripes. And we have a carrying case for you as well.
Thank you.
So, thank you very much. And
Thank you.
why don't you say a few words and just tell us about it?
I just want to say I had a lot of great honor serving this country. And just want to thank you, Mr. Mayor, and City Council, also the entire town of Glendale, just for not only the presentation of my banner today, but just their general continuous support of all the troops that are serving right now. I mean, it's actually a really big deal to have this type of support back home. I think that's one of the main reasons that our military is so strong, is because we have so much great support back home as well. And just thank you.
Thank you. As everyone knows, Thursday, November 12th, is Veterans Day. And Brian, in your honor and in the honor of all veterans, young and old, we have a special video presentation prepared by my brother, the veteran, also an Air Force member, and we can play it now.
Where we apologize. I don't know why. It was working literally. There we go. Okay.
Their music?
There should be. Volume was turned up all the way.
Wrong button.
Just like the military, huh, Brian?
Everything seems to be working okay on this end. I don't know what. Mayor and Council, we apologize. The volume seemed to be working on this right before the meeting started, and then we paused it mid-program for an extended period of time, and for some reason the volume is not on now.
Is that the end of it?
I think it's just...
No, we're having technical difficulties. Oh, I see. It's still on Okay, well, I think the music would have made it a little more poignant, but nevertheless, thank you, Brian. Thank you, all you veterans out there, including Mr. Quintero. I forgot your rank. I was going to call you out by rank, and Mr. Weaver, and all the veterans in the City of Glendale family and in the City of Glendale as well. Thank you for everything you've done for us and continue to do to protect us. Thank you very much. Okay, the next item, please.
Mayor, 3D is service award presentation to Mr. Raul Mena, electrical service planner for 30 years.
Okay, Henry Abrari and Raul Mena. 30 years, oh my goodness.
Mayor Nigerian, council members, Mr. Starbert and Ms. Spears, I couldn't have staged it any better. Raul is a veteran, and it is my pleasure and honor to introduce to you Raul Mena Jr., who is here today for his 30th anniversary for working for City of Glendale. Raul was born in Los Angeles and presently lives in Pomona. Raul graduated from Cantwell High School in Montebello in May of 1973 and received his Associate Arts degree from East Los Angeles College in General Education and a AA degree from LA Trade Tech in Electrical Construction and Maintenance, and a certificate for Construction Inspector from Cal State LA and City of Los Angeles. Raul is continuing his education to receive his Bachelor of Arts degree in History. After college, he entered the United States Army in July of 1975. Raul served his tour with Company A, 2nd Battalion Airborne, 508th Infantry of the 82nd Airborne Division, Fort Bragg, North Carolina. The 82nd Airborne Division motto is wheels up and knees in breeze in 18 hours. This unit is the first called and in combat in 18 hours. During the 4 years there, the unit was called up twice, Panama Canal in February 1978 and Zaire, Africa in April 1978. If you know Raul, you know his patriotism, and he has received many military awards. Good Conduct Medal, Cold War Medal, National Defense Medal, Parachute Badge, Expert Rifleman, Expert Dragon Gunner, Anti-Tank Team, Presidential Unit Citation, and Jungle Expert Patch. He's a life member of various airborne associations and has also been a member of Honor Guard and Burial Detail. He's a former chairman of the Glendale Montrose Crescendo Valley Veterans Memorial Committee and has had a pivotal role in construction of the Veterans Memorial at the corner of Isabel and Broadway. He's received the City of Glendale Junior Kiwanis Admiral Ben Bass Award as chairman of said committee. He's also received the Certificate of Apostolic Blessing from Pope Benedict XVI for 10 years of parishioner service to St. Thomas Aquinas School. Raul started working for City of Glendale on October 1st, 1980 as a power line mechanic apprentice and held the following positions: underground maintenance man, assistant engineering tech, construction inspector, senior construction inspector, and electrical service planner. He's worked for the city for 30 years, and I have had the pleasure of working with him for the past 24. He's a dedicated employee who's helped many developers, contractors, and at the same time protecting GWP's and city's interests. In this time period, he's had a role in construction of many projects, electrical service in the city. Some of these projects are Americana on Brand, Pacific Theaters, Sleepy Hollow Track, Sports Complex, Fairmont Extension Project. Raul hobbies are family outings, making ship models, teaching military, war, and U.S. history, government history, political science, and also reading. Let me introduce to you his beautiful wife of 20 years, Yolanda. Yolanda, can... and also their beautiful daughter, Laura, who's a senior at high school. And they're both joining us for tonight's celebration. Gentlemen, here's Raul Mena Jr.
Thank you. I will ask Councilmember Draymond to join me down there to present you with the plaques, proclamations, and gift. Congratulations. We're so proud and honored to have someone stick with us for 30 years and devote such effort and time to making Glendale a better community. Here's a small gift from the city for your 30 years. Thank you.
And what would be a commemoration of 30 years without a plaque commemorating that 30 years? And let me, Mr. Mayor, if I may, let me read it. It's 30 Years Service Award presented to Raul Mena. This certificate is an expression of sincere appreciation for 30 years of loyal and faithful service. May the future bring you a full measure of those endowments which long service and devotion to duty so richly deserve. And it's signed by our city manager, Jim Starbird, and our mayor, Ara Najarian, and it's dated October the 1st, 2010. 30 years. You don't look a day over 29. Okay. Here you go. And, Mr. Mayor, I'm told that there is a tradition around these parts that on occasions like this, though the pin, the 30-year pin, goes to Mr. Mena, and so does the plaque, the envelope goes to Mrs. Mena. It does. Please come forward. So we present this to you to make sure it gets into the right hands.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, may I state that I tell people the quality of employees we have in this city, Raul, is just typical of the people that work for this city that the general public don't realize that we have on board. So congratulations, Raul.
Thank you, sir.
You've got another good 10 years, right?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to say a few words about my good friend Raul Mena. I met him way before I even thought about becoming a city council member, and it had to do with that Veterans Memorial there on the corner. Very well done, very well designed, etc. There's a plaque down at the as you enter the City Hall chambers. It has all of the different names and the chair and then this and that. Let me be real clear. That is there because of this gentleman. He's the one that pushed it and overcame objectives, and once we got into the construction, made sure that everyone showed up and did what they needed to do. He's the one that's responsible for that. I've told that to people for many, many years, and I'm glad I'm getting a chance to have actually archive it in the City Hall records. But the second thing about Mr. Mena is that I go to different veterans meetings all over the county, organizations, different things that we all do as veterans. He's always there. I mean, she definitely deserves a gift. Your wife and daughter deserves a gift, because I don't think I've ever been to an event that he hasn't shown up. So he's a tireless worker on behalf of veterans' causes, in addition to being a heck of a city employee. So congratulations to you, and I'm very happy to see you again as usual.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. I greatly appreciate the acknowledgments on a lot of things, ladies and gentlemen, but also I wanted to remind you that that memorial and that committee was 33 people. And when we built the fifth wall, which I hope to God I didn't want to build, which is the war on terrorism, my old friend Roy Lopez, a fellow retired city employee, and another friend, Robert Torres, all three of us got together and built that fifth wall.
I hope, ladies and gentlemen, that we don't have to build another one, but God forbid if it does. We did it because we wanted to bring our fallen heroes home. They're home now. They're sitting out there. It's not my memorial. It's not your memorial. It's the city's memorial. And it belongs to the men and women of the city of Glendale, Water and Power, Public Works, Police Department, Fire Department, the citizens, and the veterans. That memorial out there is yours. Please take care of it. Because when my time comes to leave, somebody's got to take over. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time, and thank you for everything.
Next item, please.
At 3 is nomination assignment for the Commission on the Status of Women. This will be the nomination assignment for Councilmember Quintero.
Okay, that's your assignment, Mr. Quintero. Wait for your request to place on the agenda. Next item.
Next item is City Council and staff comments.
Okay, Mr. Weaver.
Yes, it's sad. Last week I asked to adjourn the memory of an individual. Doing the same here tonight. A friend of mine that I knew for many years, Tony Saldus, died October 30th. He played basketball in school. He earned all city honors, CF Player of the Year, Northern Section in 1951 and 52. Then he attended my alma mater, USC, on a full scholarship. In his sophomore year, the team reached the Final Four. And I didn't have any idea that USC made it to the Final Four in basketball as far back as 1950s. And I was a senior. He was elected the captain and received the Most Valuable Player honors and All Coast honors. While there at SC, he met Phyllis Helen of Troy, whom he later married in 1957. He could have turned pro, but he decided to go into the Marine Corps and the Army. He came back from his service. He became an assistant head coach at USC from 59 to 66. And after basketball coaching, he became the owner of an operator of Guaranteed Pest Control Company in this area. He moved to Glendale in 1962 and lived here for 48 years. Survived by 3 children and 8 grandchildren. He'll be missed because he really had a wonderful personality. He cracked jokes all the time, and he's sorely missed. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Weaver. Ms. Friedman.
Just wanted to mention a few events I went to over the week actually, in Glendale, and to congratulate the organizers of these very successful events. First, last night I attended Sunday night, I'm losing track of time. Sunday night I attended the first performance of the new season of the Glendale Philharmonic. It was at First Baptist Church, and it was a triumph of a performance. A huge crowd was there. They were very appreciative. They played for the first time with the Glendale Youth Orchestra, who was sort of a surprise guest, and they brought down the house. They were very impressive. It's so wonderful to see high school kids and some younger. I think there were some elementary school kids playing classical music in a symphony orchestra. It's really a wonderful thing to see. And it's great that in Glendale there is such an emphasis on music. The next performance they're going to have, I think it's the next one, is very special because they're doing Peter and the Wolf, which is one of my favorites. It's the thing that got me interested in music when I was a very little girl. And anyone with kids, it's a great piece to bring kids to. And the famous comedian, who's a Glendale resident, Emo Phillips, is going to be the narrator. So it's going to be a really wonderful night. And I know that they're working on a lot of great performances for the rest of the season. This one they played Carmen, so it was really wonderful. Next, I attended the first of what I'm sure will be many, Glendale Health Fair. They had something like 1,500 people showed up. It was put together by several different organizations, our local hospitals, the Armenian Medical Auxiliary, I think the city of Glendale was involved, and they gave free screenings for things like prostate cancer. They gave free mammograms out, free pap smears. They were giving immunizations, vaccinations, and they had all sorts of medical specialists there to answer people's questions and see people. It didn't open until 10 in the morning. By 9:30, they must have had 100 people in line waiting to get in. So it shows what a need there is in the community for health care. A lot of people these days don't have insurance or are underinsured. And I hope that this is something that continues. I would fully support the city being involved again next year, maybe even to a higher extent. I think that this is a real service to the community and something that definitely needs to continue. Last but not least, in terms of events, I attended the Crescenta Valley Historical Society's home tour called Sticks and Stones of houses built out of sticks and stones in the Crescenta Valley. And it was a really interesting tour with some really great houses, some older houses, some newer houses built in that style. So I want to congratulate them on a very successful event and thank them for doing what they do to raise people's awareness about the history of this region. And lastly, there's been a few letters in the newspaper being very rightfully upset about the announcement that the Department of Motor Vehicles on Glen Oaks, which was just renovated by the county or the state to the tune of about $800,000, will not be opening because of budget cuts at that level. And a few of these letters suggested that the city council do something, even though there's not a lot we can do. But I fully agree with that. I think that we should do something. And I would like to ask my colleagues if anyone would support us passing a resolution and pressing whatever representative we have, whether it's the county or the state who's responsible for this, whether it's the DMV or another use, that building should not sit vacant after it was renovated. And I'm sure there's something they can put in there that will bring the people who paid for that, the taxpayers, some benefit. So I would like to ask my colleagues if anyone has an interest in doing that.
Put it on the agenda.
Put it on the agenda for us to
consider the adoption of a resolution.
To pass a resolution and forward it to whoever oversees that particular building to get that building used.
You don't want to take action now, but we'll put it on the
Right.
agenda and you can take formal action.
That's what I'm asking for.
Very good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Quintero.
I agree. It's just beyond belief that they would spend that much money to rehab and then go in a different direction. Certainly hopefully the DMV, because we're going to have lots of residents going to have quite a distance to drive, but maybe some other state agency. I'm sorry I missed the Philharmonic. I had some guests from out of town, but I do hope to attend the next performance. They're doing a great job. We have to support them. The First Baptist is a great venue. It's beautiful hall. I missed the Philharmonic, but Mr. Najarian and I went to the Harley-Davidson Philharmonic down on San Fernando Road. The Love Ride is back, and after a one-year hiatus, and they did a great job. Of course, Jay Leno was there, and they were looking for about 1,000 motorcycles. According to the PD, there was probably more like 2,000 to 2,500, but everything was very well done. They're raising money. They've raised millions throughout the years, and hopefully next year they'll begin to grow it.
Thank you. Mr. Draymond.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had really only planned to talk about two items, but when our colleague, Ms. Friedman, mentioned the DMV, it reminds me of an extra thing I want to mention just to give the public an idea of the kind of differences of opinion that we encounter more or less 24/7 when you live in a community and let alone serve as an elected official in a community. But I'll come to that last. First, I wanted to express some thanks that was communicated to me, and I was asked to pass it on to Mr. Zern, related to the tree trimming up in the Montrose Shopping Park. We've had such a interesting season where the trees never lost their foliage because of the mild season, and so as anyone that lives up in the foothills knows, November, usually just about the time the Christmas decorations are finished, is when the first severe windstorm of 60 miles an hour or more comes through. And so the great concern was that happened so that the trees would not be so top-heavy and come down. The only question was whether they could finish the part of the job that includes that little section of Ocean View North and Ocean View South that's part of the shopping park, where those very gigantic eucalyptus trees were missed. And so that was part of the the question. Other than that, they said, great job, Mr. Zern. And then while I'm talking to you, as you know, Mr. Zern, I mentioned to you earlier today via email some concerns about the intersection of Verdugo Road and Mountain by Glendale College. And I know we have all driven through there at one point or another during the day while school's in session, and there are just immense numbers of students crossing back and forth there to get to and from class. And the request was about whether or not we can have the countdown pedestrian heads on the light posts there, so that the students aren't caught halfway through that gigantic intersection. I mean, it's an enormous intersection, crossing across all those lanes of traffic on Verdugo. So the mayor knows just how large that is because he's a traffic and transit guy.
Actually, your wish is the city's command, Mr. Draymond. I saw those installed last night as I was driving home.
Is that right?
At that, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, not at that location, I don't think.
At Verdugo and Mountain.
Verdugo and Mountain?
Mr. Draymond's wish.
Wow.
It's done. This is the city's command.
Oh.
They're up there.
Thank you.
Yes, just there you go. Just nod and say thank you. Declare victory and go home, Mr. Zern. Okay. Well, thank you. I had no idea when I received your email back on this that it was already in the books. Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. There'll be a lot of happy folks related to that. Just in case he has the wrong intersection, though, could you check into it? Okay.
It'll be done by the end of the week, one way or the other.
Okay. And then lastly, I just found it amusing, and I think it's an interesting way of illustrating just how much diversity of opinion there is in a community, even on things that you think are pretty simple. And the weekend began with stop signs that were added in the shopping park. And the city manager's laughing because he knows I must have received 200 or more emails from merchants and property owners up there saying, please thank the city, this is a wonderful thing. Never had a single stop sign or street light between Rosemont Avenue and Ocean View, which has got to be a half mile or a quarter mile at least. And so there's all of this speeding going on with there. And then one email that starts out with not dear council member or hiya, it says, what idiot? What idiot is responsible for putting stop signs there? It's hard enough to get through the shopping park without having a stop sign there. So, and similarly, I received an email about the DMV, mostly saying we should do something with the site, but a few actually that said, thank you, because it's the first time we who live in the area have ever been able to park near our homes. So we're very happy, they were saying, that the DMV has gone away, at least for the time being. But I still join you, Councilmember Friedman, in hoping that we can coax our colleagues higher up the food chain to find a use for that building, because it was completely remodeled with taxpayer dollars. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I know that that's the intersection that they're installed because when I drive through that intersection, it is one of our 3 intersections controlled and monitored with a red light camera. And I am deathly afraid of getting caught between that yellow light phase. Should I go? Should I stop? This way, if you're sharp enough, you can actually see how much longer that green light is going to remain. So very good. Thank you for that. Thank you for wishing it so, Mr. Draymond.
Wow. Keep that magic wand handy. We've got some controversial issues coming up. So,
the next thing is I'd like to extend my thanks to the City of South Pasadena and to their City Council last Thursday for unanimously taking a stand now against the 710 tunnel. They were a little bit ambiguous and ambivalent on that route most recently, but it had come before them, and by a 5-0 vote, they voted to oppose the tunnel and any other method of gap closure that would bring additional construction through their city. So that now they now join the City of Glendale and the City of La Cañada Flintridge in opposing that, but also encouraging a series of traffic improvements called the low-build multi-mode alternative, which takes the form of improving the existing infrastructure using advanced signalization technology, street widening, etc., to alleviate some of the traffic that goes through their city. And the last thing I'd like to talk about, I'd like to place on the agenda, if there's support, to dust off my old ethics ordinance that we had batted around several times before, and get it before us for some discussion and maybe some tweaking. Hopefully we can have a consensus that would lead to a passage of a new ethics ordinance for the city. That's all I have.
Yeah, I'll join you in that.
Comments from staff? Thank you. Next item, please.
Next item on the agenda is the consent items following a routine and may be acted upon by one motion. Any member of council or the audience requesting separate consideration may do so by making such request before motions are proposed. And we have requests to pull a 5B, 5D, and 5E.
Mr. Mayor, move the remainder of the...
That's 5A and C. Roll call, please.
Was there a second?
Second.
Thank you. There will be an abstention required by Councilmember Quintero on the minutes. Councilmembers Draymond?
Yes.
Friedman?
Yes.
Quintero?
Yes.
Weaver?
Aye.
Mayor Najarian.
Yes. 5B, please.
5B is Director of Public Works, approval of the final map of track number 64568, commercial condominium conversion, 2 units, 500 North Central Avenue and 501 North Orange Street. Stephen R. Layton, subdivider, at B1 is a resolution approving the final map of track number 64568.
Okay, I have a card submitted by Ms. Chinook Ramirez, who's also the speaker on 5D and 5E, and I'd like to afford you 2 minutes to address the council on each item.
I call that fairness.
Well,
the other two?
I'm sorry?
Yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead. This is 5B.
Yes, under the auspices of Director of Public Works, I was just going to give you sort of a generic tidbit of information that I thought would be pertinent to the plight of Glendale, downtown Glendale, as well as your commercial condominium conversion. And that is very simply, I'd like to give great tribute to these 3 great leaders who have brought the torch for freedom, friendliness, uncensored constituents, no human desecration to any speaker whatsoever. And these great and powerful humanitarians are mi ex-presidente Vicente Fox de la República Mexicana, the beautiful and dainty Honorable Councilwoman Lucille Kring, and the youngest and greatest supersonic brilliant political giant of the 21st century is the Honorable Mayor Kurt Pringle at Anaheim.net. And the reason I bring their names is because when I arrived into Orange County many years ago, 2000, the Honorable Mayor Kurt Pringle, in a very devastated economy, brought freedom, life to Orange County. Orange County was dead. It was bankrupt. And Mayor Kurt Pringle brought life, revived it, rejuvenated, not by censoring anybody, not by disallowing them or creating inhumanity, but by giving them the dignity, the respect, and the humanitarian that they are all owed. And the First Amendment to him is sacred. He honored the First Amendment. And those who are attorneys, you ought to know that. Freedom of expression. So having said that, I just want to let you know that if it weren't for the Honorable Mayor Kurt Pringle, Anaheim and Orange County would be dead. Thank you to these wonderful human beings. You might try calling and asking Mayor Kurt Pringle for some ideas and not spending that much money on these big, humongous marketing corporations. Thank you.
Move the item.
Second.
Is this just for B, or did you speak?
That was just for B.
Are you coming back again to speak on the other items?
We're doing
No, I just... Okay, roll call on 5B.
It was moved by Councilmember Quintero and seconded by Councilmember Friedman. Council members
Excuse
Draymond.
me, I'm sorry, Mr. City Clerk. I just want to confirm that for the audience listening, that what we are voting on is not even remotely connected to what was just stated. I don't, because after that was such a forceful speech.
I could read the item again into the record.
It's not up to me, but I just wanted to, before I cast a vote, I just want to make sure the public at home knows what it is we're voting on. So
Please read it again, just so we know.
This was item 5B. It's Director of Public Works regarding approval of the final map of tract number 64568, commercial condominium conversion, 2 units, 500 North Central Avenue and 501 North Orange Street, Stephen R. Layton, subdivider.
Mr. Howard.
And Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, following up on that, the record should reflect that the mayor has stepped down. The speaker was speaking before he realized that there's a potential conflict of interest due to a leasehold of real property that he has at one of the addresses, and so consistent with the conflict of interest provisions under the Fair Political Practices Commission guidelines, he has stepped out of the room.
Thank you. May we have a roll call?
Council members Draymond.
Yes.
Friedman.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Mayor Najarian. Mayor Pro Tem Weaver.
Aye. Now 5D, please.
5D is Director of Public Works regarding SR 134 San Fernando Road Access and Safety Improvement Program, Fairmont Avenue Extension Project, spec number 3303. And D1 is a motion authorizing the Director of Public Works to negotiate change orders to contract number 104368 with Griffith Company.
Thank you. I have a card from Chinook Ramirez. But, ma'am, I'm going to have to. I like Kurt Pringle too. He's a great guy.
So do I.
However, your comments may only be directed to issues pertinent to this particular item.
And
which
it is pertinent. Directly, indirectly, it's pertinent to this item because you are in the downfall, and I am only making merely a suggestion that sort of holds a cap over the problems that you have. You're not getting to the core issue, obviously, and you don't have resolutions or any way to address it. So coming from outside is sort of helping you. Thank you very much.
But I'm going to have to insist that you direct yourself.
Are you trying to censor? In other words, sir, you're trying to censor me. I love Kurt Pringle too, but I also admire this man because he does allow freedom of speech. I cannot think like you because I'm not you. You cannot think like me because you're not like me. But this is the beauty about America.
Thank you, ma'am.
Freedom of speech. Thank you very much.
Let me invite
This is what you inculcate. Did you just hear what he said?
I did not hear, ma'am. You
He
were
just said,
speaking.
shut her up. Is that what you're creating? Is that what you want for the rest? That's why you're having an economic plight.
That's not what I want.
Thank you,
ma'am.
sir, for shutting me up. Is that what you want?
Okay, everybody, let's just take a breath.
Christ.
We encourage public participation.
Do you really,
and
sir?
we honor the First Amendment, and we hold that near and dear to our heart. May I invite you to submit a card for the oral communications portion, in which you'll be able to speak up to 5 minutes, uninterrupted, on any subject you choose to.
Okay, remember
That may
this
be-
one. To thine own self be true. And I come here, you're a public servant, sir. Mayor Kurt Pringle is one of the most dynamic men in the world, just so you know that, and maybe you have something to learn from him and from me. But I will wait, and I'll take you up on your offer, 5 minutes.
And you'll need to take one of those cards, and this will be item...
Mr. Mayor and Council, I believe Ms. Ramirez has submitted a card
She
for
has.
oral
Okay, very good.
communications as well.
We'll be sure to give you the full measure of opportunity to speak. So 5D, I don't have any other cards.
5D is...
I'll move 5D.
I'll move
Thank you.
5D1.
Roll call, please.
Moved by Council Member Weaver and seconded by Quintero. Thank you. Council members Draymond.
Yes.
Friedman.
Yes.
Quintero.
Yes.
Weaver.
Aye.
Mayor Najarian.
Yes. 5E, please.
5E is Director of Human Resources regarding annual activity report, civil service. At E1 is motion to know and file report of the Civil Service Commission and Human Resources Department on annual activity for fiscal year 2009-2010.
Thank you. And, well, in upholding the First Amendment, Mr. Weaver, I would like to announce that there has been a card submitted by Ms. Chinook Ramirez, and I would still hold that offer open to you for a full 5 minutes where you'll have much more liberty to address any topic that you wish. Is there a motion for 5E then?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Council members Draymond.
Yes.
Friedman.
Yes.
Quintero.
Yes.
Weaver.
Aye.
Mayor Najarian.
Yes. Next item.
This next item is listed on the agenda as the oral communications period, but I will defer to you, Mayor, to explain as to what your policy is under
Thank
your
you.
tutelage here of the council.
Thank you, Mr. Kasakian. Well, let me make that announcement, just so there's no misunderstanding. We have, and welcome to the Glendale City Council chambers, Ms. Ramirez. We
Almost missed out.
I say that in all earnestly. We have two portions of oral communications. The first part is a shorter period, abbreviated, if you will, 3 minutes a speaker, to address issues and make announcements of general citywide concern. And after we do our business items, we then enter the more broader and more liberal and more time-affording section of oral communication. That's where you get the full 5 minutes. So, and you'll see some of the speakers here are going to be making announcements of events and charitable functions and all that. So let me start with the abbreviated version of oral communications. Lisa Bubari, followed by Charles Beatty and Dr. Viken Sipilian.
Good evening, Mayor Najarian, City Council members, and City Manager Starbird. My name is Lisa Bubari, and I am here to talk about November 18th, which is the Great American Smokeout Day. And for the last 35 years, we've been celebrating that day without doing anything big. And on that day, we have approximately 45 million people who participate, and approximately 10% of them stop smoking, and only 1% of them remain as a non-smoker. So on this day, I am going to do a free smoking cessation program, and it's going to be held at the Glendale Hilton, who they're going to be sponsoring and assisting, and it's going to be from 6 to 8 p.m. So I'm inviting the community, whoever is ready to stop smoking, to please go to www.healwithin.com/Hilton, and they can RSVP for that event. And it's free with only $20 for the CD for the Stop Smoking. Any questions?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Charles Beatty, followed by Viken Sipilian.
Mayor Najarian, City Council members, and ladies and gentlemen. My name is Charles Beatty, which the Mayor just acknowledged, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Montrose Verdugo City Chamber of Commerce. I'm here to make an announcement that the program what we were planning to have on Veterans Day has been postponed due to circumstances beyond our control. And everybody, the reason I'm here is to make sure those people who are in your viewing audience are aware of the fact that it will not be held this Thursday. The timetable will be announced at a later date when we can get it all structured properly. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Viken Sipilian, followed by Anna Rundle.
Mr. Mayor, our Najarian, and City Council members, my name is Viken Sipilian, and I'm here on the behalf of the Glendale Health Festival Organizing Committee, and I'm simply here to thank you and thank the city for all that it did to make the festival a huge success. As Councilwoman Friedman said, we had approximately 1,400 people who attended. 750 people went through the registration process. We were able to do screening tests on almost 500 people in the means of blood pressure checks, cholesterol checks, blood sugar checks. 200 people received free flu immunizations. Over 100 people qualified and received free mammography. Over 50 women received free pap smears. And about 20 people received free prostate cancer screening. We served over 700 healthy and nutritious meals, and we had to stop serving because we ran out of plates, and donated the rest of the food to a homeless shelter. Again, thank you very much, Mayor, for coming and attending, and Ms. Friedman, thank you for coming and attending, and we look forward to planning and making the next year's event even better. Thank you and good night.
Thank you. Anna Rundle.
Good evening. I'm Anna Rundle, and Mayor Najarian, council members, and people at home. I'm here tonight representing the Glendale Public Library to tell you about the two events that we have coming up in the next week. The first one is on Friday, November the 12th at 7 p.m., and it's a slide presentation and book signing with Ara Oshagan, who has written a book and put it together. He is actually a photographer, and his father was a poet and writer, and they put this book together talking about Armenia and Karabakh in Armenia. And I believe we do have some information about that there. It's a very interesting and beautiful book, and we're hoping that people will come. This particular presentation will be made in both English and Armenian, and of course is free, as all our programs are. And I would like to remind you all that there is free 3-hour parking at the Market Street parking structure right across the street on Harvard. Then, in addition to that particular book, we have another Authors, Artists, and Friends event, which is coming up on next Wednesday, November 17th at 7 p.m. And this book is called Merchants of Doubt, and it's written by Eric Conway, who will be here, and he is an employee and a scientist at JPL. And the Merchants of Doubt book is the story of how a group of influential scientists has misled the public by denying the dangers of DDT, tobacco smoke, and acid rain and global warming in order to advance their own political and economic agenda. This is a book which we consider might be quite controversial, and we're expecting to have very interesting and exciting time. And that's the same rules, same place, only that is on the 17th. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't have any other cards on this portion of oral communications, so we will close this segment and move on. Mr. Clerk, would you please, I have had a request from the Director of Community Planning regarding the United Nations Urban Environment Accords to be placed ahead and given priority. They assure me that this is not going to be a lengthy presentation. Therefore, would you please read item 8 into the record?
Item 8A is under action items, Director of Community Planning, General Manager of Glendale Water and Power, regarding Greener Glendale Plan Report. At 8A1 is motion authorizing the Mayor to sign the United Nations Urban Environmental Accords on behalf of the City of Glendale. At 8A2 is a resolution addressing sustainability and climate change.
Thank you, Mr. Hurdell.
Thank you,
Did
Mr.
I correctly understand our previous discussion?
Yes, you did. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And in short, this is giving you a status. These two actions will acknowledge that where we are in the status of completion of Phase 1 of our action plan, and also the two actions, if adopted, will allow us to maintain the grants that we have, and will also qualify us to apply for future grants that will help the city in forwarding the sustainability programs that you have already initiated. If you'd like, Laura Stotler is here to give you a very brief report about this. Otherwise, we're ready to take the action and move on.
Okay, I have two speakers from the public who we'll hear from, Al Hoffman and Michael Reed.
Mayor Najarian, City Council, and staff. Al Hoffman, resident of Glendale. The issue about green and climate change and all that is very interesting. I came from JPL too, and there's a lot of scientists up there that don't agree with all the stuff about the climate change. Turns out it's a cyclical thing that goes over thousands of years. As it turns out, every time a volcano goes off, like the one in Indonesia now and the one in Iceland, that wipes out about 100 years' worth of what mankind can do to possibly control carbon emissions. It just happens. That's what our Earth is. It's a live Earth. My concern about green and building green is, what is the return? Are we going to spend a lot of money for a little return? That's what we got to look at, and that's what I'm concerned about. What are we getting for it? Are we going to spend a lot of money and get very little return? That's not good, especially in the environment that we're in right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Michael Reed.
Hi, good evening. My name is Michael Reed. I've dealt with Mayor Najarian before when he was at Glendale College, because I worked at Glendale College for 10 years now. And my first city council meeting, so you'll forgive me if I seem a little nervous. I'm here to comment on the same issue and to completely disagree with the last speaker. As a resident of Glendale for 10 years, as an educator in environmental science, as an associate professor at the College of Geography, as the college's sustainability coordinator, although I should make clear I'm speaking right now as a resident of Glendale and for myself, I'm not representing the college in any official capacity, and frankly as a surfer who is often in polluted water laced with plastics and styrofoam, I would like to point out that this is a much bigger issue than just greenhouse gases, and that leadership in making the city a greener and healthier place is something you should all be applauded for, if that's the direction we're headed. I already applaud the work you've done thus far. Why should this be done? It should be done because leadership is first and foremost, as we heard earlier in the presentation, about protecting the residents of your municipality, and while we think of that in military terms, I think we can think of that as in environmental terms too, and we've known that for a very long time in this country. The public wants this. The vote last week that allowed AB 32 to proceed makes that quite clear. A survey I conducted at the College of Faculty and Staff in the spring showed that over 90% of faculty and staff at the college think that the college needs to move in the direction you're headed. By the way, 40% of the faculty and staff at the college think even if it costs us money, we should be doing that because leadership and education are about doing the right thing. Finally, I think that Glendale is a wonderful place to live. It's why I've chosen it to be my home, but I think it could be a better place to live, and I can't stand the way some other cities are getting great press about their initiatives on the environment. And I teach about these issues in the college all the time, and students come to me and say, well, why aren't we doing those kind of things here in Glendale? And I don't have a good answer for them. Again, I applaud you for moving this kind of thing forward. I want to be able to tell them that we are doing these kind of things here in Glendale, and that Glendale will continue to be a great place to live and a better place to live in the future. So thanks for your time
Are
tonight.
you the one responsible for all those emails from the college students telling us to...
Did you get a lot of emails? I'm thrilled to hear you did. It may be my fault. But I certainly told people there, I only found out about this meeting on Sunday and about the content. But I did tell people that they should look into it. Didn't tell them how to proceed, but told them they should look into it, read the document, and contact you if they had concerns.
We did get the emails.
Great. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Alec Bartrosuf, followed by Grace Hess.
Hi, thank you. My name is Alec Bartrosuf. I'm one of the co-founders for the Coalition for Green Glendale. I just wanted to express my support for this resolution. I hope, Mayor, that you sign it. And also, I do disagree with the previous speaker about climate change. This isn't only about the climate. This is about air quality, water quality, livability, mobility in the city of Glendale, and I hope that you support this as well. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Grace Hess Kimbita.
Hello, and thank you for allowing me to speak in support of the Glendale Green Planning. My name is Dr. Grace Hesquimbita, and I'm a mother of 2 children, an educator, have a master's in chemistry and a doctorate in education. And I have taught chemistry at the college level and at the high school and middle school science. I have brought in a lot of environmental green topics into my classrooms when I used to teach. Right now I'm dedicated to my children. But when I did teach, that was one of my major pushes in trying to improve environmental education among people in general. Anyhow, just wanted to also just express that I disagree with the first speaker. There is a lot of scientific proof out there, and that there is a minority in terms of certain things, but disagreements with the climate change. However, it's the majority of scientists support it. Anyhow, I've been a 11-year resident of Glendale in the Verdugo Woodlands area, and have recently noticed the progress Glendale has made while I've been living here. First, the garden on Monterey and the 134 freeway really adds to the aesthetics of the area. Also, the Glendale City supported our application in the Solar City solar panel lease program, and so I think we were one of the first families to do that, and we have solar panels on our home. And Glendale also provided an energy evaluation of our home before moving on with, excuse me, in addition, engaged much information on how to greenify our home. And we've taken steps to do so. And we encourage other residents also. And most recently, we have taken advantage of the worm composting program, and I saw several other families there also getting their $25 worm bins and a free regular composting bin. And again, I'm really excited to see that going on in the city. When I moved here 11 years ago, there was barely anything going on in that regards. And my point here is that Glendale has taken many baby steps to try to improve living sustainability within our community. And now it's time to put together a greater vision for Glendale. And I really want to support you taking steps, signing a resolution, supporting whatever these ladies here have on making Glendale a greener place to live. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have any other cards on this item. Mr. Weaver?
I'll move 8A1 with a comment.
I'll second it.
I looked at, okay, 8A1 and 2, I can move both. Yes, I choose to.
I will accept that dual movement.
And the only comment was, I looked at the list of urban environmental accords signing cities. The City of Los Angeles isn't on here. I think they're a little bigger than the rest of us. What's the City of LA waiting for?
Tell him.
Question, eh?
Tell him, Mr. Weaver.
So, anyhow, I made the motion.
Just a quick comment. I think that this is a really important step. I do want to point out for some of the speakers that Glendale may not be getting a lot of press, but we've been making a lot of motion in the last couple of years. And GWP in particular has a renewable portfolio that's the envy of all the cities around us. And they've been very aggressive in moving into renewables, which is something I'm very proud of. And I fully believe that this is something that we do not because of any economic return, but because we get to live as a planet. And the other option is not an option I want to consider. It's interesting. Just today on the radio, I heard a long news report about where's the giant international conference that's taking place right now, where they're discussing Kyoto and other climate change. Nobody knows? Okay, I don't feel so ignorant. Copenhagen? I think that's right. They were talking about how some of the many of the countries that are there that are directly affected by climate change are in crisis mode right now. That there are water wars beginning to break out because of lack of fresh water due to climate change and due to pollution. Many of these nations are really in dire trouble, and they're asking the developed world for help because they've been really, the developed world can shield themselves from a lot of these issues, but the developing countries can't. And so they're really asking for our help. So this is not just for us, it's for the whole planet, it's for those nations, and what we're doing is a small step, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. So thank you all for coming.
Thank you. Mr. Quintero?
Yeah, I'd like to just dispel the notion that somehow, well, maybe we can't afford it, that somehow it doesn't work out financially. I think it's the exact opposite. If you look at advanced economies, this is exactly where they're heading, and even an economy like the one in China, this is exactly where they're heading, towards solar power and all other renewable sources of energy and other. So I'm tired of hearing that argument.
Thank you. Mr. Draymond?
I have nothing to add, Mr. Mayor, except my vote.
Okay, I just want to, I just like to, I guess, address Mr. Hoffman's concern. And I have heard that natural events such as the volcano eruptions, as well as as of last year, the station brush fires and the the brush fires following that in Santa Clarita. I forgot the name. It starts with a C. They have a name for it out there as well. Dumped incredible amounts of CO2 into the atmosphere, and it does have me concerned. Where we as a city, if you don't forget, we banned outdoor barbecuing a year or two ago, and one of the reasons was that we were contributing to greenhouse gases. So at some point, I am looking for the further evidence on that. But as far as the city of Glendale goes, it's a very broad, greener Glendale program, including reducing energy consumption, the renewable energy that Ms. Friedman talked about, recycling, zero waste, recreational open space, protecting drinking water, protecting our habitat, locally grown organic foods, reducing single-occupant vehicle trips, reducing toxics, our green building, as well as our neighborhood planning. So it's a very broad report, and we are pushing forward in all those fronts under the guidance of Mr. Hagani and his staff, Laura, and GWP, and who else am I going to give a call out to? Okay, I think I neglected to recognize you. I'm sorry. So we have a motion and a second. A roll call, please.
Council members: Draymond.
Yes.
Friedman.
Yes.
Quintero.
Yes.
Weaver.
Aye.
Mayor Najarian.
Yes. Thank you. Next item.
Would you like to return to 7A?
Yes, back to
For
7.
adoption of ordinances, as 7A is ordinance amending sections 13.08.20, 13.08.030, 13.08.050, and 13.08.150 of the Glendale Municipal Code 1995 relating to water rates. This was offered on October 12th, 2010 by Councilmember Weaver.
I move 7A.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Ladies and gentlemen, we did hold an extensive public hearing on this on October 12th, and for that reason, I am not inclined to reopen the public hearing. Therefore, we have a motion and a second. If there's comments from my colleagues, very well. If not, we'll ask for the roll call.
Council members: Draymond.
No.
Friedman.
Yes.
Quintero.
No.
Weaver.
Aye.
Mayor Najarian.
Yes. Next item, please.
The attorney has stated that the ordinance has passed. Next, at 7B, is Director of Community Planning, Fire Chief, regarding adoption of the 2011 Glendale Building and Safety Code. At B1 is a resolution adopting findings of fact justifying amendments to the California Building Standards Code.
Thank you. And let's see, this was offered.
Does he have to read all?
You have to read. Yes. Can we move 1 and 2 separately? Okay. So
I'm sorry, at B2, should I read B2 in the record now? Okay. This is an ordinance adopting the 2010 California Building Code as Volume 1A, the 2010 California Residential Code as Volume 1B, the 2010 California Plumbing Code as Volume 2, the 2010 California Mechanical Code as Volume 3, the 2010 California Electrical Code as Volume 4, and the 1997 Uniform Housing Code as Volume 5, the 2010 California Fire Code as Volume 6, the Glendale Security Code as Volume 7, the Glendale Commercial Industrial Property Maintenance Code as Volume 8, and the 2010 California Green Building Standards Code as Volume 9, all of which comprise the Building and Safety Code of the City of Glendale 2011. And this was offered on November 2nd, 2010 by Councilmember Weaver.
Are there any cards on these, Mr. Kasakian?
No cards on this, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, and we have to take these separately.
Yes.
Mr. Weaver.
I move 7B1.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Council members: Draymond.
Yes.
Friedman.
Aye.
Quintero.
Yes.
Weaver.
Aye.
Mayor Najarian.
Yes.
And I'll move 7B2 now.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, roll call.
Council members: Draymond.
Yes.
Friedman.
Yes.
Quintero.
Yes.
Weaver.
Aye.
Mayor Najarian.
Yes. Then, let's move on. Okay, now we're at the oral communications part of our city council meeting where you are unburdened by the restrictions of addressing the particular agenda item. You can discuss anything that you would like to bring to our attention within our subject matter jurisdiction, the city attorney reminds me, and I'm happy to call up Chinook Ramirez for your 5-minute portion, followed by Al Hoffman.
And as Mr. Ramirez makes her way to the podium, allow me to remind everyone that this discussion will be limited to items not a part of the agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. Members, council may question or respond to the speaker, but there will be no debate or decision, and the city manager may refer the matter to the appropriate department for investigation and report. Ms. Ramirez.
No problem. I'd like to give you two quotes. One, and I quote, "If our fears are greater than our joys, we have lost our battle," end of quote. And the second quote that my grandmother, Mexican grandmother in Mexico, taught me is, when anybody censors you or deprive you of your humanity, they walk 3 steps backwards, and you, the injured party, will walk 3 steps forward. So, having said that, I am deeply, reverently compelled to salute the following: the United States Coast Guard, the United States Air Force, the United States Marine Corps, the United States Army, the United States National Guard, the United States Navy, the United States Navy SEALs, the United States top brass Pentagon officials, the United States Department of Defense, the United States Police and Sheriff's chopper pilots, the United States military aviators, I'm glad you find this funny, Mayor, all commercial airline pilots, the U.S. Top Gun, the Gillespie Airfield in San Diego, daredevil pilots extraordinaire, the towers, my icon, General Chuck Yeager, a fighter pilot and a test pilot, and the last icon was my father, who served in the Mexican military, non-corrupt, straight shooter, like me, a Mexican mechanic, top-notch, who served in the United States Coast Guard, who broke, and again, Chuck Yeager broke the sound barrier. My apologies, General. Ladies and gentlemen, I am deeply outraged because just around the corner is Veterans Day. And would you believe it that the so-called charities or service-oriented businesses are only providing free meals, etc., and free services only to active duty veterans? I find that rather shameful. How about the inactive veterans? And I have veterans in my family too. So these are great, honorable, and respectful warriors that did indeed provide us with life, liberty, justice, and the right to our own property, and the right to the freedom of speech and expression. Thank you, Mayor Kurt Pringle and military. Should we do less than them? How dare this great country violate them and discard their blood sacrifices? That is truly shameful. And again, military, thank you all for your public safety services and all that you've provided us. I love you dearly. I respect you, and I honor you, gentlemen, pilots and military. You definitely kick ass. And God, I love you. And the second part I'd like to say is the Honorable Mayor Kurt Pringle, whom I've never met before. I never met a titan like the Honorable Mayor Kurt Pringle. He came in about 2000 at the time that Vicente Fox took over, and they were they catapulted a boomerang of explosion of expression, freedom to speak, uncensored, to look anywhere without being attacked or ridiculed or arrested. No other mayor across the United States or in any other country, thanks to Vicente Fox, they combined forces, metaphysically, cosmically, and any other way, ethically and legally. And that's where these two titans of freedom of expression, transcending racism, brought life, liberty, and justice to a dying economy in Orange County and a dying economy in Mexico. And look at now, the Honorable Mayor Kurt Pringle is leaving today. And my Mexicano Presidente Vicente Fox, God, I love him. He's so handsome, and so is Mayor Kurt Pringle. But these two people made a dynamic change. Never did they have one person violated, arrested, or censored. They honored, they cemented the First Amendment, freedom of speech. If you are lawyers, you ought to kick yourself in the butts. You know why? Because he's not a lawyer, neither is Vicente Fox. But they honored that beautiful, beautiful cornerstone that many have died for, including my family. And today, I vow before my mother, who just passed away a couple of days ago, Thank you, Mama, for teaching me how to have huevos, as we say in Spanish. Huevos. And my father, a military, and United States Coast Guard, huevos. If they step on you, remember, the universe will bring them down. And you, the universe will lift. I'm not making a penny, but you are. I'm not a public servant. I'm just a humble servant before the universe. And I'm not a religious freak, by the way. So having said that, and I'm not an attorney because I would have been disbarred a long time ago, but I did meet the Honorable Justice Bernard Jefferson. So bless his heart too. Thank you. You were right about me, what I would be doing, Justice Jefferson. I love you. Having said that, again, I vow to fight on. You will never censor me. You will never quench me. But I thank you graciously. Thank you.
Thank you. Was that a full 5 minutes?
Yes.
Okay.
It was.
It seemed quicker.
Very full.
And I just want to state for the record that I was not laughing at Ms. Ramirez. I merely had a pleasant expression on my face. Next speaker is Al Hoffman, followed by Margaret Hammond.
Smile.
And you sometimes accuse me of laughing too, Mr. Hoffman, but it's just my pleasant expression that I like to greet everyone with a smile. And
That's wonderful. That is good. Everybody should smile. Mayor Najarian, council members, staff, Al Hoffman, resident of Glendale. I guess day after tomorrow, Veterans Day, is really an important day and one that I think a lot of people just don't seem to appreciate what veterans have done for our country since its existence. And we get all the flack about the wars we're in and all that, but America is a unique country. We're not like any other country. We essentially are made up of the world. Therefore, it is our responsibility to go around that world to try to bring freedom to people that don't have it, that don't have our freedoms and our way of life that we enjoy. And I think it's forgotten. There's a lot of ridiculing about the military going to war. And the ones who don't ridicule those decisions to go to war are the soldiers, the veterans themselves. They honor the fact that they can serve our country and bring something good to a part of the world that is living in a terrible way of life and under severe restrictions from their government, even if they have a government. So I honor all the veterans, and I do have one concern based on all the budget issues we're going through. If I remember right, when we have a veteran, when a National Guardsman that was working for the city of Glendale had to serve, and on his return, I believe we guaranteed his position back. Is that right? And is that something that, are those positions held open for them specifically?
Yes.
And then we can, that's something we have to factor in again into our budget, that when they do return, that they get that job back. And I had a concern about how that was going to work out into the crisis that we're in right now with all the budget issues that we're having. So that was what I was wondering, are they guaranteed that position back? Okay, thank you.
thank you. Margaret Hammond, followed by Charles Hooker, and then Mike Mohill.
Good evening, Your Honor, members of the council, staff, and audience. My name is Margaret Hammond, a longtime resident of Glendale, and I spoke about this before. But one of the things right now, since this is military month, I would like to remind people that I am still in the process of collecting for Christmas packages to go overseas to the troops. I take the things that I get down to the Newport Beach American Legion because they are connected to the Camp Pendleton, and can get the packages over. So anybody that wants to contribute to anything, and I do have a list, I don't know, maybe I'll try and find out how maybe the next time I'm up I can get it put up on screen or something. Anyway, just keep those guys in mind. They're going to have a lousy Christmas probably, so whatever you can give is going to help them, whether it's a Frisbee, toothbrushes, shaving cream, whatever, that type of thing. Not big things, I'm going to go on to something that happened Friday where the ladies of the Patrons Club of Glendale had a luncheon, and at the Castaways, we raised quite a bit of money for the scholarships for the students of the college. And we had a great, fun fashion show, rather rowdy. It was the holiday hats and gowns from Montrose are a wonderful shop that donates to many different groups. They help by allowing them to use their clothing in the fashion show. And the Men's Warehouse provided the tuxedos, which was the men from the college wore them. It was really fun. And our wonderful Gertrude Ness, 104 years old. She walked down that ramp just like, you can't believe it. She's so smart. She lives alone, drives her own car. Wonderful lady. She's an asset, really. Anyway, I'm going to get on to my subject. And it's about the DMV closure. I know you keep saying you can't do anything about it. But, one friend had to go to Simi Valley twice. And the second time because she just had surgery on her eyes and had to go back. 4 hours she had to wait there. Now, one of the reasons that was included in the closing was because of ID theft, which there was a write-up about that was going on at that DMV, our DMV. Last year, there was the asset theft from the Glendale banks that was going on. Now, we just had this big thing, $126 million medical theft, Medicare theft. And beside that, the next day or within a few days, $26 million ID theft again. And to top it off, the one right after that was the real estate fraud cases. What is happening? There's something crazy here. We're going completely out of control on this. It's unbelievable. I have my family in Canada get this, and on top of that, to be accorded the honor of being the headquarters for the Russian-Armenian mafia, the OK. My family in Canada are calling me, what the heck? They see it. And I'm like, yeah, that's my city that I love so much, that I've always wanted and bragged about. And then, of course, on top of all that is our driving records. The crazy drivers. They're insane. Something needs to be done to teach people manners. That's the whole thing, and caring about your neighbors. That is where there's a big problem. And I think these young people, they're not getting proper driver training anymore. They can pay somebody and they get their driver's license without even having to, know how to drive. That's why we're having so many problems. Up there at the corner of Brand, which I've talked about before, and the freeway, I had a guy in a little sports car go all the way from the right-hand lane all the way across the 5 lanes to make a left turn onto the freeway. I was absolutely boggled. As I said, I wasn't going that fast, but he crossed in front of the whole thing. Now, if you don't think that isn't crazy, you tell me something else. But it's just, I don't know where it's going to end. And up in La Crescenta, the woman got up 2:30 in the morning, crashed her car, the car across the street, left a big hunk of his Mercedes-Benz there, drove it further down the street, and ended up crashing it, and then running away and abandoning it. I don't know. It's like horrific. It's every day in the paper. You're almost afraid to have a look at it. But I do think that, I don't know what needs to be done, but I do know that it's really getting out of hand. All this theft and all this ID stuff, it's really sad. My friends are all feeling that it's time to get out of town. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. Charles Hooker, followed by Mike Mohill.
My name is Charles Hooker. I'm one of the few native Glendale residents. What I wanted to talk about was the water rate hikes that the city of Glendale is going to have. For one thing I would like to bring up is Mr. Obama did not give Social Security a raise the last 2 years. What makes the city think that people can afford to give the money if you're on Social Security and all you're doing is paying off $67 a year. That's what the new rate will be for everybody in the city of Glendale. Think of how much that amounts to if everybody is paying $67. That is a lot of money. City of Glendale is really reaching in our wallets. Okay, the next thing I would like to say, and I should have said this first of all, is I want to thank all of the veterans who served their country, and without them, this country would not exist. And thank you so much to the veterans again. The next thing I would like to say is I want to thank Mr. Steve Zern for being the gentleman that he always is and helping out, taking care of our neighborhoods and doing everything 110%. Mr. Zern deserves a raise, and I hope we can give him one. The only thing that I would like to have Mr. Zern do is, I live up in the Woodlands in a little place next to the 2 freeway, and we got our trees trimmed up to the 1900 block, but the 1900 block on Los Encinos didn't get their trees trimmed because we have a big condominium across the street, and they had their cars parked on Alpha and Los Encinos, and we were not able to get our trees trimmed. And the city light is now completely impaled, and you cannot see anything with one of our city lights. I guess that's my time for me to go. So thank you, gentlemen, and thank you, Mr. Zern.
No, that wasn't your time. You still have some time, Mr. Hooker. That was
a
phone. That was Mr. Zern's phone that just went out. The man you just gave a raise to.
Yes.
It's his wife.
Anyway, Mr. Zern has a great crew that works for him, too. And I think they should get a lot of kudos, too. Okay. Thank you.
Mike Mohill.
Hard to follow Mr. Hooker here. I hope I can do this as well. Good evening, Mayor Najarian and council members. Name is Mike Mohill, long-term resident. The politics of Glendale unions. Last week, when I came before the council, I told the Glendale City Council and the taxpayers that I had an empty purse and we had empty wallets. We could no longer afford the city of Glendale and give the Glendale City Employees Association or any union any more tax dollars toward their salaries and pensions. Most people knew the City Council had already made up their mind to make the Glendale City Employees Association an example of who had the power. Our city manager, Jim Starbird, had told the union and public the city did not have any more revenue to contribute to the GCEA. Council members agreed with Mr. Starbird, as the sun would no longer rise over the city of Glendale for the next several years. The GCEA was going to be the scapegoat of the council and management missteps. What went wrong? The GCEA had always played by the rules and gave political campaign money to the council candidates through the years. For the past several years, Glendale concerned citizens like Mr. Herbert Milano came before the city council and public with charts and graphs showing the pension obligations were unsustainable. The city council, the city manager, would belittle Mr. Milano, but he had to say, "You folks all ate crow last week." The city revenues continue to shrink, but salary and pension benefits remain. The city council in the past 12 months approved a $30 million redevelopment agency bond, a $20 million for smart meters, with a projected additional cost of $50 million to the ratepayers to swallow. During the same period of time, our city manager and the manager of the Department of Water and Power never informed the public of the rapid deterioration of the city infrastructures. Water lines, valves, roads, etc., were in dire need of repairs. Capital improvement projects continued to be put off. Now the public is being told there is not enough water pressure to put or support one additional fire hydrant on the line. Price tag to replace this all would be millions of dollars. Fingers are being crossed for no emergency failures. Look outside. See the deteriorating roads of the city crumble before our eyes. And yet, the Glendale City unions had their hands out looking for more salaries and benefits during closed-door negotiation with the city management. It is sad that the largest city union, the Glendale City Employee Association, with 1,600 members, was the only union to take a modest pay cut of 1.8% this year. But the Glendale Police Officers Association received an 11% pay raise, and the Glendale Firefighters Association and the Glendale City Managers Association just had a no cost of living increase. No COLA for our firefighters could always be made up with more overtime pay. The first obligation of the government is to pay the city pension obligations, followed by bond obligations and city wages. At the end of the food chain, money will be coming to fix those crumbling roads, maybe a soccer field, a park, a library, any other city services. Payback is tough. See, Glendale CEA, when one is on the receiving end, hopefully the GCEA will join the concerned citizens of Glendale to push to have all future negotiations with the unions open to the public. The present system is broken, the power of the city is with the fire unions, and the structure needs to be changed. Council members, the public like to know what your plans are when we have run out of money. How much longer will the ratepayers have to pay for your past actions? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mohill. I don't have any other cards, so we're going to close all communications. Ms. Friedman?
Yes. First, I just want to thank the speakers for coming, as always. I just wanted to correct one number that was thrown out. I think it was Mr. Hooker. I appreciate your comments, but I just want to correct a few of the numbers for people who might be listening at home, unless I misunderstood what you said. The rate change is not $67 a year, and it's certainly not by person, because the rates vary depending on whether you're in a single-family home or an apartment building. For the average single-family home, and I'm looking at the staff report, the change is $2.33 a month. That's on the average, which comes to $27.96, so let's say $28 a year. For the average apartment dweller, that change is $7.20 a year. So I just wanted to clarify that. And again, if I'm misunderstanding the number you were pointing out, I apologize, but that's the number according to our staff report. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Quintero?
Your mic.
For the record, the comment that Glendale's the headquarters for the Armenian-Russian mafia is just nonsense. We all know that, but I hate to just have it hanging out there.
Mr. Starbird?
And Mr. Mayor, I'm not even sure where to begin to correct the inaccuracies in Mr. Mohill's statements about the unions and the GCA being the only group that had any givebacks. The fire department did. The management team did. Their salaries were reduced. They're picking up a larger share of the public employees' retirement costs. And as noted in the last presentation, Glendale leads the cities throughout the state in pension reform, and our employees picking up theirs and the employer's cost of PERS. So I don't know where he's getting his information from, but it's terribly inaccurate.
Mr. Howard?
Just very quickly, I'd like to note that we are required under federal laws, the Uniform Services Employment and Reemployment Rights Act, to keep job positions open for those who serve in the military. I believe we have one individual right now.
We have one person on active
One person right now on active duty that would qualify under USERRA, as it's known, but we are required by federal law to hold those positions open. It's not something just that we do. It is required by federal law as well as state law, the Military and Veterans Code.
And it won't break the budget.
Right. But Mr. Mayor, I might add, you do take a step further each year.
Yes.
And you adopt a policy that maintains their salaries and benefits while on active duty.
Correct.
Exactly. Thank you. Mr. Weaver.
I was going to make a motion to adjourn in the memory of Tony Sullivan.
That's some new business.
Oh, sorry about that.
I didn't know.
Mr. Quintero.
Nobody told me.
Okay, I move that the city attorney be and hereby is authorized to enter into a retainer agreement to utilize the legal services of the Zappia law firm, Ed Zappia, to represent the interest of the appointing authority before the Civil Service Commission in a personnel matter and to incur all necessary expenses in connection therewith. The agreement shall, in addition to other provisions, contain a fee cap for the handling of said matter.
Second. Roll call, please.
Councilmembers Draymond.
Yes.
Friedman.
Yes.
Quintero.
Yes.
Weaver.
Aye.
Mayor Najarian.
Yes.
Yep.
I think that's it for new business. Now, Mr. Weaver.
Now I'll move to adjourn in the memory of Tony Saltus.
We are adjourned.